Okay, awesome. All right, hello everyone. Welcome today to our CVC webinar on all things leveraging your time and your process so that you can build good quality courses online over time. So my name is Sean Valcarcel. I'm an instructional designer on the team, and I'm glad to be here with you all. I would imagine that a lot of you are getting ready for the upcoming spring semester at your local campus. So hopefully what I present here will be helpful to you. Um, Generally speaking, my approach to things is to really make the best use of our time. I try to be as practical as I can be. I understand that when it comes to course design online, uh, there's a lot of people at different levels, different experience with technology, with teaching in general. So I really try to leverage everything that I do so that it's beneficial to everyone across the board. We can always learn something that will help. So today's agenda will basically talk about process in general. As an instructional designer, we spend a lot of time talking about process, and we try to do what we can to streamline. And the idea um, that you can streamline anything is easily transferred to building your online courses. You can streamline your own process of building your courses, and the course itself, you can continually be working so that it's a streamlined experience for your students, so that things, when they go into Canvas, into your course, it's clear, it's easy to navigate, it makes sense, and they get out of it a good learning experience. Secondly, we will go over building a basic framework in Canvas, something that hopefully you'll be able to duplicate. Also, afterwards, I will direct you to um, a self-paced course that you can do on your own, where I'm basically your host through a couple videos I have in there, so that you can continue and follow the steps to help you build your courses. And we'll also look into adding audiovisual elements to the course, which is a great way to leverage your time. Um, yeah, we'll get into that, and then we'll spend some time with the Q&A. And keep in mind that as we go, you can keep note of any questions you have in the chat, um, and we can address those at times in between my presentation and then in the Q&A afterwards. All right, so I'm going to start with a story, and if you know what a DIYer is, or a DIYer is, then you will understand, especially my wife, because you thought maybe that you were going to say you understand me, but let me tell you this story. My wife has lately become this DIYer that follows every do-it-yourselfer that you can find on Instagram, and uh, she has lately been looking around the house and saying, wow, look at all these projects that we can do, especially with us, everyone being at home with, my wife works in the school district, and our son, but everybody's been at home for the past year. And I myself, uh, I kind of grew up with a different approach to life. I wasn't one, I mean, here and there I'd kind of tinker with things, but I wasn't one to say, hey, let's rip down this wall in the house and rebuild it and redecorate and do all of these things. So when uh, when we first got married, right, it's like, all right, let's put up a ceiling fan here. And I'm like, all right, great. How do you do that? So my first ceiling fan took me about 3 hours to put up. So uh, through that process, right, I would even get stressed out. I would think like, okay, don't give me any more projects to do because I'm a terrible handyman, right? Even though, that's supposed to be like a norm for, you're a man, you're supposed to do those things, have a toolbox and a toolkit. So long story short, I have slowly become a little bit more of a DIYer. I've become a little bit more skilled at doing some different projects around the house. I finally went out and bought myself a really good drill, like the one you see in the picture here. And I just said, you know what? I just got to start learning this a little bit at a time. So, what's the moral to this story? When you're learning um, things that essentially when you're building your courses in Canvas, you're really kind of like a DIYer. You're learning things from people. You're going to webinars. You're watching YouTube videos. But essentially, it's you building your course. So you're learning as you go. So what I've had to learn with myself is to be patient with the process and do a little bit at a time and let things. It's the whole idea is to make life a little bit more manageable, right? Not to make it more stressful. So that's the approach that we all should take. And let me note that my father-in-law, my wife's father, he's a civil engineer, so he does this stuff in his sleep. It takes me 3 hours to put up well, now it takes me less, but to put up a ceiling fan, it'll take him like 15 minutes. So sometimes there's that level of intimidation, but nonetheless, we all can do it. So, all right. So now I'm going to jump right into Canvas itself. Let me go ahead and expand my screen so that everyone can get a good view. Okay, hopefully that's a good size. All right, so we're going to dive right into the course. It's into building courses. And I did say in the description for today's workshop that this is more of like a hands-on. So if you do want to, you can go ahead and open up if you have like a development shell and follow along, or it's up to you. You could take notes and go back and do that later. But the idea is that I really want this to be see what I'm doing, kind of follow the steps, and also in the middle of that discuss some of the principles. Okay, so let me refresh the page here. So first of all, if you don't have a development shell, I do recommend that you reach out to whoever is your Canvas administrator locally and ask them to get you a development shell. And that's one thing about when you are developing a good process for yourself is you want to have this practice shell so that you can build the course out there, and then in your live course that actually has the students in the course, then you can um, easily transfer either the entire course or just parts at a time into the live shell. So it's a great way to build in the practice environment and then put it into the live environment so that you get a more finished product for your students. So this is my practice shell, and the first thing that you see is that I have a home page. So when you're building out a course, there's a basic framework that is involved. and that starts with a home page. So I'm going to go back and show you how you can quickly build out a basic home page that gives students first entering your class what they need to see on day one. All right. Secondly is the modules area. So these two areas is what the basic framework of Canvas is, right? A car has a steering wheel and 4 wheels. Canvas has a home page and a modules area. That's the basic framework. So once that's in place, then you can be able to add whatever content you need to add to the course, including assignments, discussions, and multimedia. So the framework is there, then you can begin building and adding to your course. Now in my course, I happen to have an orientation module and 5 content modules. Many times you'll see courses, or maybe you yourself may have a course that has 1 module per week, all right? So that is a good way to approach it. So maybe your course might have 17 modules, for example. The reason that my course has 5 modules is, again, I wanted to leverage my time with building out courses. And when I was first assigned to teach this course, this History of Rock and Roll course, during a summer session that was only 5 weeks, I had to find a way to take at that time I had 19 modules, and find a way to condense that into 5 weeks. So I thought, well, you know what, a module is nothing more than a container. So I can take and group together a few of my modules by topic and put them all into a single module. And then when I teach the same course in the regular spring or fall session, I can just say, all right, module 1, you'll be in module 1 for 3 weeks. You'll be in module 2 for 2 weeks, right? So that was one way that I figured out how to leverage my course building so that I could build the same course to fit into an 18-week session, a 5-week summer session. So that's why modules is great. And I know that students appreciate it when they see that modules are well organized. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So the second thing you'll see is that my modules, the way I name them is I want it to be as clear as day. All right. I tend to be a little bit more minimalist. So I like 5 modules, just put the numbers in front and the titles of those modules. If I go back to the home page, you'll see that I've provided, well, in this case, this was the past fall, the dates. So the way I like to do it is this home page is what changes, and it lets them know from the beginning exactly what dates they will be working out in the modules. So that when I go to the modules page, I don't have to every new semester change the dates in the modules. Plus, it's a little bit less clutter for me. So that's one strategy you can use. Now, if I go ahead and expand my modules, then what you'll see here is, first I start out with the orientation module. I let them know this is where you can start. And this is the basic information that they go through. The same way if we were in a face-to-face class, I would be talking to them and saying this is how the course runs and whatnot. And then when you get into the actual learning modules, I always have an overview page and a recap page. So I bookmark each module so that they know, all right, this is an introduction to what you'll be learning in the module. And then you have the summary or the completion to say you've completed the module. So overview, and then in the middle, sandwiched in between, is the actual content. So this is all about how you're organizing your course, and then students can go through sequentially, or they can go and skip around, right? But it's built out in a more sequential manner. So in the module, I have them go through the first section on, in this case, music. We go back to African roots, and then they have a critical listening page that they go through, and then a listening analysis. And then they go to the next section, and then they go to the critical listening here, and then the listening analysis. And then they have a discussion and a project for that module, and then a recap. So I follow this same basic structure for each module. So as we go through, it's the same idea. So by the time they've completed module 1, they already have a rhythm of how the course is run. Okay. And then they go through the course. All right. So I'm going to continue here. Let me just check the chat real quick. Okay, so real quick question here. The banner for my homepage is right. I created the banner. I actually used Illustrator. Another good one that maybe some of you already use is Canva, right? So I went ahead and put that in the chat. And once I created that banner, I just, using Illustrator, I just brought in some different images and I wrote in some text and changed the color. And then I exported it as an image, in this case, a PNG file. And then I just uploaded it as an image to the page. Headings, Christopher, I would imagine you're talking about headings in the module itself. That is something else that you can use, definitely. I personally don't, because I just like to have exactly the titles in the actual page titles themselves. All right, so now when I get into, and this is really kind of like still like the introduction, because I'm going to get in and start working in a empty shell and start showing you a little bit of the process that I go through. So I do have the banner on each page. When I go in, if I were to click here, you can see that it is an image. Alt text is always important, which in this case, I want them to be able to read that the image is History of Rock and Roll. And the way I've done it with a banner is, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Is when I go into the image options, right? You can custom here. Let me close that out. But if you go in, you can actually change the size of it. So I have it set to 100%. So whatever screen a student is looking at the course, they can see that the banner takes the full width of that. So, and again, I'll show you how I do that. I just wanted to show that real quick. But in the overview page, I do have where I start them off with, what did you just do? In this case, they finished the orientation module, and then what are you going to do? So it's a preview of things to come. And I also like to identify the module that they're in, because if you notice, when you start getting into the pages, the modules don't, the module that you're in is not identified in any way. So I do like that, and I just add a background to it. And again, I'm going to go through to show you how to do that. All right. I love images. I'll show you how to place images so that they're right justified, so that there's padding between the images and the text. I use the headings so that everything is clear. And then I embed videos. Canvas has a new button that they've added to the rich content editor to actually embed your videos. Okay, so as they're scrolling through, it's really, my idea is to just have sort of this digital book slash video um, experience, right, for the students. And then as they next through the course, they get to the page where, again, it's always identifying the module, and then I've embedded audio recordings, and I use, in this case, 3C Media for that. So that right on the page, right, they can go in and play the recordings right off the page. Right. So when they get to the listening analysis, I embed the recordings also into the questions so that they don't have to jump around. They can just play the recording and answer the questions right there. And then they get into the next section. And again, and the videos that I put in, I essentially recorded myself talking through and playing the recordings. So those serve as the quote unquote lectures for the course. And just to let you know, these recordings, I recorded these 7 years ago. So they're still valid, they're still relevant. That's another way to really leverage your time. I mean, those lectures that um, are, they don't have what am I trying to say? They're evergreens, right? You're going to teach the same things over and over. Sometimes it's really efficient for you to just put the video up and just say, hey guys, watch my video where I talk about whatever the topic is. And, I let them know too. It's like, yeah, these videos I put up from 2014. So it's still me, right? But that's why, again, video is a great way to leverage your time. So, okay, now let me go ahead and, well, let me check one more time. I see a lot of chat happening. Yeah, so when it comes to copyright, I had a discussion with my dean, and the dean let me know that the institution would pay every year to BMI, which is the publisher for pretty much all popular music. The only other one really is ASCAP. So I was covered under providing these recordings for the students. And well, where did I get the recordings from? I actually got them from the school library. So it was already purchased material. And then on top of that, students enter the course through a password protected environment, and they're not able to download the recordings. So it's just a temporary access to the recordings for the 18 weeks or so that they are with me. And then after that, they no longer have access. So that's how I handled the copyright on that. Okay, I think I saw one more question that yeah, okay, so I'm going to show you that. How do I prevent downloading? I'm going to show you how I did that. So, um, okay, so let's go ahead and just start from scratch. And as you see, the first thing that you can do in your course is add a module. And right away, I already have my titles in place. So I can go in and start adding modules just by hitting the plus module button. And this is the way that I like to start, is by building out the framework in the module. So once I have my modules in place, then I can go in and use this convenient plus button to go in and start adding whatever I need to add in. Okay, so let me go ahead and start with a page here. And this is going to be my introduction to the precursors of rock and roll, just as an example. All right, and please note that right here, you can add quizzes, assignments, discussions, and already it's in place in your module. And then you can begin building it out. It's already in the module, so it's a good placeholder for you. Name your topic and then add the items. So you're building out your modules, and then later on you can go in and start editing and adding content to the items in your module. Okay, so let me go to introduction to precursors here, which is the first page I put in, and I'm going to go ahead and edit the page. All right, so we have the new rich content editor. All right, so we'll go through some of these tools. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with adding the banner, and I'm going to upload an image. So you can see the icons here. So I have this image icon, and then I'm going to upload this image from my local computer. And here I just found a rock banner, something I was experimenting with. Let me open that, and the alt text, I'm just going to say something like, welcome to rock. Okay, or you can make it decorative if you don't really need it to be described with any text. All right, so now that banner is in place, I can go into image options and I can say, well, you know, I want this to be maybe a different size, and I say done. But what I like to do is go into the HTML, and where I find the width, I make that 100%, because then that way it's going to be responsive. So even if they're looking at it on a mobile phone, right, they're going to see the full size of it. So I do 100% for the width and the height. Okay, so let me continue here, and I'm just going to hit the, oh, so it's already there. I'm going to expand the page, and I'm going to say, welcome to rock. Okay, hit the space bar again. Actually, let me do this because I'm seeing something here. All right, let me just undo that. All right, I want things to be as clean as possible in my page. I don't want to all of a sudden start typing things in and maybe the formatting's not good. So I don't know if you can see here, but the cursor is blinking just at the edge of the image. So what I want to do is hit the enter button, and then that way it breaks to a new paragraph section, right? So now I can type in welcome to rock and then hit the enter button, and I can bring in text. So let's say, for example, I want to go to my syllabus that I happen to have on a Word document, and I want to just take the course description and copy it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy. So here's a nice little trick, is that I can say, okay, I want to put some text in here, but I don't want any formatting to come into my page from Word. So I'm going to replace it with pasting in and matching style. Or in other words, pasting as plain text, right? If you're on a PC, it'll say paste as plain text. So I click on that, and now it just brings in the text as just plain text, right? So, and again, if I were to go in and look at the HTML, I will see that there's not a lot of unnecessary formatting. And so that way I can easily click to this Welcome to Rock and then select the heading 2, which also makes it accessible, right? All right, so let me go ahead and hit the space bar again. Now let me add in a video. So I will go to, I think I have it somewhere. Oh, I know where it is. All right, so here's my page, and let me just bring in, let's see, this video here. And I'm gonna go to the share button on YouTube. Oh, and that's another thing, right? If you don't already have a YouTube channel, or maybe use 3C Media or some other platform, you definitely want to have that in place so you can start building up your library of videos. So in the share button, I go to the embed option, and I go ahead and select the copy button. And now I'll go back to my page. And now in the rich content editor, I have the embed option. So I click there, making sure that the cursor is where I want it to go. All right, and now I can go in and paste the embed code. Now, again, right, height and width, you can change that if you want. I happen to prefer a 400 width. And if you ask why, it's because that's the standard width on the mobile app. So if you have students accessing your course on the mobile app, they're going to get the video as the maximum width of their mobile phone screen. And then I already did the math, so I know that 225 is retaining the ratio. So I go ahead and submit that. So now my video is in my page, okay? All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and hit the enter button. And let's say I have some more text. I'm gonna say, okay, here's some critical listening for you to listen to. All right, and here is where I can bring in, well, let me put in let me, do the way you're supposed to do it and say, all right, listen to the following recordings and analyze whatever I decide I would coach them on what to listen for. Hit the space bar, and now I would go to my 3C Media account, but I locked myself out of it today, so by mistake. So I came prepared with another way to do this, and that is, where are you? Okay, over here. In a document, in a Google Doc, I've actually kept all of my embed codes from my recordings. So again, this is another strategy you can use if you want backups, right? So I'm actually kind of glad that I got locked out, because I can actually use this as an example that I kind of had a little bit of an emergency for. So let's see, let me just let me go in here and let me grab this iframe code right here. Well, actually, let me get, let me just get one. All right, so as you can see, I have the title in a paragraph text, and then I have the iframe. Okay, I know I'm gonna have to do something here. Give me a second. Okay, I need to put another P tag there. It was missing. All right, so now I have this, but this part right here, okay, I need to expand my page so you can see this. All right, I need to show you this. All right, this iframe here, from opening and closing iframe, that's what you actually would get from 3C Media for your audio recording. So I uploaded the audio recording, and then it provided me that iframe. And to answer a question that came earlier, in 3C Media, when you get the embed code, it disables the ability to download, right? You're not able to download it. So it's just really providing them access to the recording. And that's it, right? But I'm going to go ahead and get also the title. And let me go ahead and copy that. And let me go back to my page. And actually, I'm going to see if this works. If I use this embed button and I can bring in that full code. And here's a little bit of HTML for free right now, okay? You have an opening tag and you have a closing tag for paragraphs. So here on the iframe, I have an opening tag. I have to add a closing tag to it. And that is /P and close bracket. All right, so now I submit that. Okay. All right, so yeah, that's not going to work, but I am going to show you my workaround. So let me go ahead and save it. All right, so with the audio recordings, so you cannot use this embed option. I just learned that right now. So I'm going to do it the old school way, and that is to go into the HTML, and I don't need this extra text. I'm just going to paste in my HTML here, and then I'm going to go ahead and save the page. All right, so there it is. There's my audio recording. So now I've built out a page that has an image as a banner. I have a video. I have an audio recording. I can play it. Yes, it actually plays. The video actually plays.
Let's take a look at this.
All right, so we're good to go. Let me stop here and see if there are any other questions. Yes, iframe is the same as the embed code. The video is mine, and I did get it from YouTube, so I just happened to go to my YouTube account. But like, if you were to go and find my video, you can get the embed code as well. You don't have to own the video to get the embed code for it. So if you are considering using larger text for like, let's say just your plain paragraph text throughout your course, like let's say you don't want the 12 point, let's say you want everything to be 14 point. My thing is just be consistent, right? So you don't want to mix and match. So that way students, they recognize that the text is yeah, that's paragraph text, because if some of it looks bigger, they're going to say, what's special about this text, right? You want it all to be the same. I personally like using just the default sizes. Okay, so for organizing files, right, I should probably take a couple minutes and go over that. So Elizabeth, I will come back to that. Yes, and I understand the whole thing of like, oh, I keep reinventing the wheel, right? I mean, it really does come down to, and that's my hopes for this workshop, is to show you different ways that you can streamline your process, right? And I will go over a couple other strategies that you can use that hopefully will help. Yes, Canvas Studio, that's a great tool. If this is beyond where you're at, okay, I have a self-paced course. We call it a 5-day challenge that before we're done today, I'm going to send you the link to. You can sign up for it, and I walk through the, I mean, I'm going a lot faster now, but in that 5-day challenge, I really slow it down, and I say, all right, follow these steps. You can watch me on the video, you can pause it, you can rewind it. And by the end of doing that challenge, which we call it a 5-day challenge, but you take as much time as you need, right? You could say, I'm just going to do one a week, and make it a 5-week challenge. That's why, it's self-paced. So, um, but yes, okay. But I will take that advice and slow down a little bit as well here. Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So, let me go over one. Let me go over. Let me go back to my modules area. Okay. So now that I have, um, yeah. So I'll touch on files here, and then I will go to something else that I'm going to do. So let me go back to files. Okay, so in your course, you have the course navigation menu and the files area, right? This files area, it should be for your eyes only, right? This is an area where it's just organizing whatever multimedia you will actually access in your course. So as you see, I started from 0 in this particular shell, and it already created a folder for me called uploaded media. Because what I did was I brought in that banner image directly into the page. So it automatically filed it away for me in the files area. But what you can do is go to the files area and start bringing in whatever multimedia, um, in other words, images, right? Maybe external documents, but you can start organizing it directly in here. So one way you can do it is use the folder option, and you can say, all right, well, this is my module 1 folder. So whatever files I'm using in module 1, right? You can organize it by modules. That's a good way to do it as well. Okay. And then if I open up module 1, right, and I say, all right, I have this image over here. Well, let me use my handyman image. So as you can see, I have the image on my desktop. I can just drag it in. Okay. And now the image is available in the files area in my module 1 folder. The other thing is I can also, once the image is in here, I can go in and rename it, right? Because the file name is, it's not really necessary, right? So I can just say simply handyman, and I can check that box. So now I have the image, so you can go in and organize your files that way. So now I'm going to go back to my modules, and let's say in my discussion here, okay, I'm going to go ahead and add some content to this discussion. So I'll go in and edit, and I will maybe say, all right, so instructions or prompt, um, discuss the key elements of, right? Okay, so I'm just typing in some plain text, and then let's say I do want to bring in that image that I brought in. So I can go to the image function and go to course images, and there's my handyman image. So I go ahead and click on that, and then that brings it into the page. All right. So I go ahead and save that. All right. So again, as you can see, if you're creating a discussion, if you're creating um, a page, an assignment, a quiz, it has the rich content editor. Okay, so I'm gonna come back and do one more thing before we open it up for some more Q&A. I did say that we would have like a basic structure for you to start with, and I want to go back to a home page. Okay, um, you can follow the steps here to get a decent home page, because once you have your modules in place, you have the framework there, and you have the home page, then that's really your starting point. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to settings, and in settings, I'm going to go to the navigation area, and I'm actually going to trim down all of the what is available to students, because right now students don't need to see, not even, you know, I can take out 90% of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag items that I don't need the students to see. Okay. And honestly, in my courses, it's really just about 4 items. But as I'm dragging these, so, okay, modules, definitely I want them to see that. I don't need them to see assignments and discussions because they will already be in the modules. Okay, the syllabus, I can leave that in there. Pages, they'll see in the modules, right? And then, so maybe just these 5 items, and then I can go ahead and put them in the order that I think is a good order: the home page, the modules page, and then maybe announcements, grades, syllabus, like that. So once I do that, then I'll go ahead and save. Okay, so now I can look from the student view, right? And I can see that this is what they see. Again, I don't have any announcements yet, and I haven't opened up any modules yet, so they don't see that yet. But what they do see, and then I do need to create a home page, but I've trimmed down the navigation area for students. All right. So let me go ahead and create a home page. So I will go to pages, and I'm going to go ahead and open up this new page, and this will be my home page. All right. And I may put a banner in there, maybe not. Maybe I'll just say, welcome to History of Rock and Roll. And I'll go back and, like I did before, copy and paste in the plain text for the description. And then if I look at my home page, I'll see that I have a welcome message with myself. All right. You can type that in. I'll just go ahead and copy this. Maybe instructor welcome. And I'll go ahead and paste this in. All right. And then I'll have a link. I'll show you how to do that, because I want them to know how to get started in the course. So I'll go ahead and copy this, hit the space bar or the enter button, and I'll go ahead and paste that in as plain text. All right, and then I also have the schedule. So I'll go ahead and copy that. Hit the return button and paste that in. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the headings. So what I'm doing here is I'm just clicking on those areas just to put the cursor somewhere there in the line of text and make those the headings. Getting started is a heading. And then this fall 2020 is a heading. All right, one more thing I'll do here is I will put a space in and bring in an image of myself. And I'm going to upload this image. Well, we'll just pretend that this is me. It's not me, but all right, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to make that much smaller. Make that 100 done. And then I'm going to use this justify option to right justify it. And then I'm going to go ahead and save and publish my page. So there's a real quick rundown just to get a home page up and running. It has the information that the students would need. You can also add in a welcome video of yourself, right? My welcome videos, I just take my phone, record on my phone, and upload it into YouTube like that. And then to make this my home page, I make sure it's published, and then I simply say use as front page. And then when I go to the home area, I select the front page as my home page. So choose home page and then front page. And then I go ahead and save that. So now when students enter the course, this is the first thing that they see. And that is the beginning of structuring out. And then from there, you can just add as needed, right? So a great strategy is to say, let me get the important stuff in. And then over time, like let's say over these next 18 weeks, you say, okay, every week I'm just going to add one more element, right? But what is the must-haves are in place. Okay, so we have a few minutes left, and I'm just going to open the rest of this up for Q&A. And if you'd like to unmute yourself, right? Maybe let's go by using the hand raising function.
I'm
Oh,
raising my
Cheryl.
hand, Sean.
Go
There
ahead,
seems
Cheryl.
to be some confusion about published pages, published courses, and the home page. And it's hard in text or, chat. So basically, the student won't see anything unless the course is published. But you will see published and unpublished everything. And then again, the student, once the course is published, only those pages that you've published with modules will be seen.
Okay, that was my question, was that if I have a published page, will it pop up somehow, or just whole courses?
No, they have access, like Sean showed, through the homepage, and then anything that you have. So if you just click on Student View, Sean, you can see that. We'll publish it first. Publish.
Yeah, you're right. So
and
here's
then just check it out.
Yeah, once this is published, then it's a done deal. It's published, right? So students can access it. And then when you go into settings and student view, they'll only see what's actually published. So the home page, I published that, but I haven't published anything else. So if I leave the student view and now I go to modules, this is the publish button for the module, right? And then it automatically publishes all content in the
No,
module.
I'm actually talking about something else.
Okay.
So when you attach a homepage, so I have a stock homepage like you do. When I attach it, it says I have to publish it before I can say it's a homepage.
That's
So
correct.
my course right now is unpublished, but the page itself is published. So my
So
question is, can the student see the homepage without the course being published itself?
no.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're good. You're good there. Yeah. And so now if I go to the student view, okay, so now students will actually see the modules. Oh, I know one other thing that I wanted to do. So they see the modules here, right? Getting started, right? I can put a link in there. Where I can say, all right, begin here. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. And I'm going to use the course link. And I'm going to have them link to the first module. And then I'll go ahead and save that, right? Because that's another important element that you want to have on the home page is like, okay, where do I start? And then so they say, begin here. So click on there. And then that's where in editing the page, you can say start here. So now, oh, got it. There we go. So we're good to go. All right.
Another question, Sean, from the audience. Ria wants to know, do you have any tips on images and ensuring that when you import the following semester that the images go within the course?
Yes. So when you do a course copy, import course content, right? Whatever course you're copying from, right? So let's just, I'm not getting the, I'll just do this, right? I find the course, you'll see a drop menu of all your courses. If you select all content, then everything is going to move with it. So whatever files you have, it's going to move with the course.
Excuse me,
If you
Sean,
want to
it's
just
Ria.
select specific content, then you can itemize. So if you say like, well, I'm going to go into pages. Actually, let me do this.
Sean, can I actually go? I'm the one who asked that question.
Uh-huh.
So I understand that. It's just I'm having problems with my images actually going with the content. Because when I do import, I import everything. So I'm finding that if I go and in fact, I just found one missing image right now, and then I right clicked it to go into the inspect menu, and it's showing that it didn't come over with the rest of the course content.
It's probably linked to another course if you check the ID of that image, because anything in Canvas, if it's in your file folder, it will come over. So
I have the same problem.
if it's missing, this is one of those tidbits, you guys. When you're in a course and you're copying stuff from one to the other, if you're just copying like a page into another Canvas course, it doesn't bring the image in. It's only bringing the HTML, and it's going to stay in the original course. So when you see at the top, it says, you know, your course number is 6592, but in the code, it shows that it's coming from 6921.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem with the missing image usually.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
And it happens a lot.
Sorry, how can we fix that then?
So you go into your original course and, sorry, I'm not hijacking, Sean. You use the validator, go to settings, and then check, run the link validator. It'll show you if anything's missing in your course. And even though it looks like the image is in your, say, course A, It's there. You can see it because you've got access to all your courses. But when it goes to your new course, it won't really be there because it hasn't been physically brought into your new course. So that's what I usually do is run the validation. And if it says preview image missing, then just go into that page and then you'll have to relink it. So if it's in, last semester's course, then you just have to bring it in.
Does it have to be a published course that you're going through? Because I have trouble with stuff like this. With
No,
my old stuff, I can't export or import any pages for the last semester, for example.
My suggestion would be then go to the course from last semester, run that link validator, right? Make sure that everything runs clean. You'll get some errors that say maybe you have an external link, and if it's good, don't worry about it. But if it says images or files, then you just have to go to that page, like I said, and look to see if that file is in your file folder, because that's what happens. I copy and I paste, and then I forget to bring that actual image in. So it's kind of tricky, but overall, nowhere to lie. If you have a course in Canvas and you're copying it into another one, everything that was in there legally is going to come over. And if it doesn't, it means that a link is broken or that file's actually not in the course, if it makes sense. Oh, and you know how you can check it? Go to student view. If you go to student view, that image should show up as missing in the course.
Right. Yeah, the biggest problem with that, is if the way that typically happens is if you have a page from a previous course and you just copied and pasted it into a page, and maybe you did it several semesters ago, but when you use the course copy function, you avoid that. And then Araceli, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
How do you go to the validation thing?
Oh,
You go to settings,
Okay.
and on the right side over here is validate links and content. And then when you say start link validation, you just click the button and it'll take a few minutes depending on how much needs to be analyzed.
Is this the new course or the old course you're doing this?
So in this, what you want to do is really whatever your new course is or your destination course, right? This is where you want to do the link validator.
Okay.
I mean, there are times when you want to do the validator on the course that you're going to import from, right?
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
another tidbit is if you're able at your college to get empty course development shells, you can create like a master of your course. So if you teach one all the time and say you're making updates during the semester, but you don't want them in the live class for whatever reason, you could have a master and then make sure that that's always clean. And then when you copy it, you shouldn't have any trouble. And if not, then just make sure that your most current course is validated.
You can also put things in the commons and then import it that way as well.
Yep. It's not as, yeah. Sometimes it depends on your instance in Canvas if it pops up in the list that you can download to, but that's also another way.
So what came up in my course here is these are actually pages that I don't even use anymore. So, but in this case, they were just broken links. So if I were to look at this home page 4 and, well, let me go back. What was the link that it said? The start here link was broken. So if I click on start here, right? Well, I guess in that case it worked, but whatever.
No, it's because it's unpublished. That's all. It just shows you that you have unpublished pages. That's all. See, it says unpublished content. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Okay. See, no broken links found.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yay.
Sometimes it gives you confetti too.
It does.
Any other questions? I feel, I know we're past time, but I almost feel like okay, if everyone saw, if again, our app, online network of educators.org, you go to the courses list, right? And then here's the 5-day challenge that I was talking about. Challenge 1, getting started in Canvas. That's a great one if you really want, my goal was, again, to walk you through building that basic framework that you could build on from there. And then here's another one that Cheryl put together specifically on getting more into accessibility. So take a look at those. You just register, you're pretty much registered in right away. And then, of course, you can look any of us up over on this page and email us if you have any questions. Where's the chat? So that is it. I'll hang out for a few more minutes if anyone has any other questions. Otherwise, everyone have an awesome Friday and an awesome weekend.
All right.